More Oklahoma Sooners heading to the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Today is brought to you by Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. The portal continues to see Oklahoma Sooners entering it like it's the Stargate portal. I don't know, that's a terrible sci-fi reference. Only the sci-fi nerds out there are going to get that. But no, man, it's just been a wild week. And the most notable one on Thursday was Brennan Thompson, wide receiver, who had some moments for Oklahoma, but like a lot of the Oklahoma Sooners offense, couldn't really get on track in 2024.
The transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal taketh away.
Well, so far, it just taketh away.
And right now, we're in the taketh away mode. Don't worry. Giveth will happen. That's going to happen. So there's going to be a lot of players to replace. That's what, 7 wide receivers now in the transfer portal for Oklahoma? Yes, it's a pretty long list of guys. And I know a lot of you have concerns of, oh my goodness, why is all these wide receivers leaving? Well, I mean, if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense that things need to be a little cleaned out. It's unfortunate that guys decided they didn't want to stick around. And for us, the big thing is now Emmett Jones was going to have to go and cook. Now, Emmett needs to go cook for real. And I believe that that's now what him and Ben Arbuckle is going to do. It looks like he's probably going to have a lot more control over his room, and he's got to make some tough decisions. And it's all about guys that honestly fit what he wants to do as well as what Ben Arbuckle wants to do on offense. And the Brennan Thompson one was a big time shocker to me too. Like I said, he was a really good contributor, really good soldier. He came to work. He did what was asked. I mean, he wasn't put in the best situations, but he came out there and he did what he could. And unfortunately, it did not work out. You would have hoped it would have with the speedster, but I totally kind of understand why Emmett Jones would possibly been okay with him going. He's going to have to he's bringing it. Based upon the visitors that we've seen supposedly coming to Oklahoma, the list is long with a lot of dudes that are really tall.
Yeah, they're definitely looking for some more size on the outside. And they had it with Nick Anderson, with Angelo Anthony, but those two guys are gone after injury-laden 2024 seasons. You've got Jaden Gibson that's going to come back at this point. I don't expect that to change, but you have him coming back for 2025. Just got to get him healthy.
Yep.
He'll be at a year from his ACL injury come August. And as much as I want to rely on him to be able to contribute in 2025, you've got to be very portal heavy in the transfer portal at wide receiver. And that's okay. This is a position where there are going to be a lot of really good players. You know, are they going to be first round caliber wide receivers? We'll see. But you're going to be able to find guys that can be very, very productive for you in the offense. So, listen, it's based on what we got out of the Oklahoma Sooners offense this year. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go in a new direction? You know, whether it's the offensive coordinator, the quarterback, or the wide receiver situation, it's just none of it was good enough, right?
Yeah.
Even when you felt like, okay, hey, we could get some things going a little bit, we could move the ball a little bit, and nothing clicked in the passing game at all.
Yeah, and there's no shade to any of them. It's just it did not work out. It was not a season that was fruitful when it comes to the wide receiver room, to production on the offensive side of the ball. And honestly, as you as fans, you expect better. So they're going to go and get you better. That's really just the simplest way to put it. It's not like we are, purposely trying to, I guess, kick everybody out, while at the same time, they're probably making some hard decisions of, well, we have a roster limit. And now we're looking at the wide receiver room. How much production did we really get out of this room? Well, not much. So let's go and try and find guys that we've seen put up production, and let's actually make that happen. It's not going to be a perfect process. Bringing in portal wide receivers, as you mentioned, John, perfectly. There's a lot of them. Those are the ones that typically hit the portal the most. because it's kind of a position that is in there's a lot of quantities when it comes to that. There's a surplus of wide receivers. That's the word I was looking for. There's a surplus of wide receivers in college football. Every team usually has about 13 or 14 of them on their roster, and there's a lot of dudes that could be productive if they had the opportunity to play somewhere else. We've seen guys go other places to dominate. Honestly, I hate to say it, go look at the other dudes down south that we meet in Dallas every year. They brought in 4 of them, and they were all productive. Shout out to Colorado. Coach Prime got like 4 new wide receivers in the portal outside of Travis Hunter. LeJontay Wester as well as Will Shepherd were very productive for them. They were transfer guys. So you're seeing the influx of wide receivers hit the portal that have the opportunity to come to your school and actually be successful. I think Ben Arbuckle and Emmett Jones is looking at that saying, all right, the landscape is laid. I bet you we can get a few more guys from there.
Well, I think of guys like Matthew Golden, who went from Houston to Texas. I think of a guy like Trey Harris, who went from Louisiana Tech to Ole Miss. And so even as you're seeing these group of 5 guys make the jump, they're proving that they're capable of making that jump. Now it's just up to Emmett Jones and Ben Arbuckle and the offensive staff to figure out which of those guys that are capable of making that jump, because you're going to have to bring in at least 3 guys. And I think 2 of those guys have to be willing and able to come in and be starters, or at least compete for a starting job with a guy like Zion Kearney. Who knows where it's all going to end up, but we've already seen that they've had a lot of interest in Donovan McCulley, had him in for a visit earlier this week. They've had Reginald Virgil on their radar all week long. That's got the connection to Jaden Gibson. So they've got some guys that have collegiate production, and that's going to be able to translate, whether you're making the jump from the G5 or the Big Ten or the SEC over to Oklahoma. Having some college production, I think, is going to bode well for the Oklahoma Sooners, and it's going to be something that you can kind of rely on. Listen, right. high school rankings are one thing, and that high school production is one thing, but then making the jump to the collegiate level with all of the responsibilities that you have on and off the field, that's a different thing. So they're targeting guys that have legit production. I know a lot of people want us to go after Micah Hudson, the Texas Tech transfer wide receiver that was a former 5-star, but he didn't really get on the field much. No. And there might be some inroads there. I haven't seen anything, but it's clear Emmett Jones is going after guys that have produced already at the collegiate level.
Let me add to that too. And I mentioned the Colorado guys specifically because we knew that they're a pass-happy offense, pass-heavy with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, and they brought in Will Shepherd from Vanderbilt, 47 catches, 617 yards, 6 touchdowns. The year before, he had 47 catches for 600 yards. LeJontay Wester played 4 years at FAU. He had 100 catches and 1,100 yards receiving the year before at FAU. Came to Colorado, 70 catches, 800-something yards and 10 touchdowns. He was very productive. Jimmy Horn came from USF, came in, had 50-something catches the next season for Colorado after only having 37 the year before. So my point is, the dudes that come up, like you said, Trey Harris is a great example. He led Ole Miss. He was their top guy. So don't discount the dudes coming up from G5 at the wide receiver position, because if you're productive at wide receiver, you're probably going to be productive at the next level, as long as somebody's throwing you the ball. And now we get to see if Michael Hawkins can do it. There's a few more entries into the portal, John, that weren't very surprising.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Let's talk Phil Picciotti, the linebacker. He's battled injuries in his 2 years at Oklahoma. He's got good size for the position and a guy that could be very productive at the collegiate level. It's just he hasn't been able to get healthy to get on the field.
Yep, that's another one that couldn't get healthy. And then you had Brendan Zerbrug, the freshman quarterback that came in with Michael Hawkins. He decided to hit the portal. He was a part of that 2-quarterback signing, and in hopes of getting a chance to battle. And honestly, at this point, it doesn't look like there's a path for Brendan to get on the field. So, yeah, it's surprising in a way, but it's understood. Makes a lot of sense why you would do what you're doing. So, yeah, the portal taketh the way right now, but I promise you, everyone, it's going to giveth very soon.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend in Norman for transfer portal visitors. We got one on the horizon coming up here. We'll discuss on Locked On Sooners. Game Time has a great feature called Game Time Picks that allows you to see the best available events going on in your area. It makes it easier to get tickets to see your favorite teams play. And it filters out all the fluffs to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Over in the Game Time app, they curate deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats, whether it's comedy shows, sporting events, concerts, what have you. Game Time is the best place to get last-minute tickets and the lowest price guaranteed. They've got event cancellation protection and job loss protection. So if something happens and you need to try and get that refund, Game Time has the most flexible ticketing policy in the market. So go check out Game Time, download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game Time. And with Game Time, you also got cool vintage gear you need to wear on Game Time, which comes from our partners over there at Home Field Apparel. They had their can't miss kickoff for 2024, and now you are in the holidays, so you can stock up on the gear that you need. They've got some awesome football boxes, and those boxes will fill you up with some cool stuff. 3 never before seen items for your school that's not going to be available anywhere else, and it's purely curated for you to have gear to wear all season long. You can also check out the coaches jackets, which coaches jacket is one of my favorite ones that Barry Switzer rocked. You can get one of those, as well as hats, koozies, all kinds of cool stuff. And in the Platinum box, you're guaranteed 20% off and early access on your school's releases throughout the entire season for 2024. So go check out homefieldapparel.com. Use our code Sooner24 for 15% off your first purchase. Again, go check out homefieldapparel.com for some of the best vintage gear in college football.
And thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Help us to get to 10,000 subscribers.
Get it out.
We're almost there, about 70 subscribers away now. We'll hit it maybe at the end of the day, end of the week.
Nice.
Do your part, Sooner Nation. Thanks for being locked in with Locked On Sooners. The Oklahoma Sooners are going to have a very busy weekend ahead with portal visitors. According to Colin Kennedy of Sooners Illustrated and 247 Sports, one of the more recent additions to the visitor list is Jerron Bradley, the former Texas Tech wide receiver turned Boston College wide receiver. Now, we just talked about guys that have production at the collegiate level. Go back to 2022. Jerron Bradley, as a redshirt freshman, had 51 catches, 744 yards, and 6 touchdowns. In 2023, he had 36 catches, 431, and 4. Well, this past year for Boston College, didn't really emerge for the Eagles. Only 6 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Another guy with size at 6'5", 220. Familiar with one Emmett Jones. I really like this potential here for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and this is kind of the example of what we're expecting from Emmett Jones, to go after guys that make sense to come here. Is going to be some guys that Emmett Jones have coached before. He's seen their production before, and he's like, okay, I think you can work good for us. So like Gerard Bradley, unfortunately, he goes to Boston College. It doesn't work out, and that's sometimes the situation doesn't fit. Heck, their quarterback got benched midway through the season after starting the year off pretty strong with upsets against like Florida State. He hits the portal, and now he's at Florida State. So you start to see that everybody's starting to find the players that fit them best. This is an NFL model, guys. We're no longer at that collegiate of just having a whole bunch of dudes on the roster and just seeing what happens. Coaches are focused on, honestly, their jobs. You got to start finding guys that are going to be productive and help them to make sure they can keep their jobs and they're providing you with the product that you're asking for. If you want this team to constantly win, you're going to have to go chase after the dudes that put up production. But having, I think, Gerard Butler visit is a huge one. There was another visitor as well. You got Naziah Hunter, the wide receiver from Cal. He's expected to visit sometime in the next few days, if not this weekend, early next week. Another wide receiver that had over 500 yards in receiving and 5 touchdowns there at Cal at the P4 level. So that's P4 production that a lot of you are looking for. He's going to be coming to pull up and see what Oklahoma's talking about. The good thing is, you'll be able to meet Michael Hawkins, be able to meet the coaching staff, be able to have those conversations about what the future looks like. And honestly, I'm hearing that there's some of the guys that are coming out, they have legitimate interest in Oklahoma.
Yeah, so that that visit's supposed to happen this weekend, according to the folks over at Sooner Scoop and On 3. Also with Reggie Virgil expected to visit on Friday. So that's 3 receivers that you're planning to have in over the weekend in the future, along with Donovan McCulley. So that's 4 guys that you're going to have a pretty good shot at. Now, a lot of schools are going to be going after these guys. So you're going to have to make a really, really strong pitch. But also, according to the guys over at Sooner Scoop and On 3, George Stoya, they got a couple offensive tackles that are supposed to visit this weekend as well. Corey Robinson from Georgia Tech, Derek Simmons from Western Carolina, and Luke Belenko from Stanford. And that Stanford connection's worked out pretty well for the Sooners, but that's a position, if anything, that's when you have to go solidify. Your pass protection was too inconsistent in 2024 to feel comfortable going into 2025. You've got some potential at offensive tackle with Logan Howland, with Jake Taylor, with Jake Sexton, with Michael Fasusi coming in, with Ryan Fogier, with Isaiah Autry-Dent. There's a lot of potential at offensive tackle, but nothing that's been realized. You got to find a veteran that can go and help stabilize one side of your offensive line at offensive tackle as you let the rest of it compete on the other side. Yeah.
You're going to need to veteran up some of these positions. That was the one problem we ran into this past season. Brent Venables mentioned it. We had 81 true freshmen or true sophomores play this past season. So anyone from the true sophomore status, redshirt freshman, and freshman, about 81 dudes played over 8,000 snaps. You're playing a lot of young guys. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. It's fortunate and unfortunate. The fortunate thing is it gets them the experience that you need at the collegiate level. So Brent Venables, Zach Alley, as well as, at the time, Joe John Finley and Kevin Johns got to play a lot of young guys. Bill Beatonbow got to play a lot of young dudes on the offensive line. But at the same time, when you play a lot of young guys, you get a lot of young mistakes. And that's just what it is. The move up from the high school level to the collegiate level is a massive jump. And like you mentioned before, John, it's not something that's the easiest for everybody. It's something that you have to figure out how to work through. Think about back in your day when you were a kid trying to figure out life at 18, 19 years old. How perfect were you? None of us were. I mean, I wasn't a troublemaker, but I wasn't the perfect kid. But, a lot of us had to deal with stuff. That's what it is. And so they're trying to adjust to being young adults while at the same time going to college and playing college football, which is a full-time job. So you got to find those dudes that you don't really know it until they get there, what the work ethic truly looks like. Because everybody trains in high school and puts up some really cool videos, but you don't know until they get out there and they have to go through the grind. And as Brent Venables would say, you need that strain. You got to have that strain where you're trying to push yourself to the next level. You don't find that out until they get on the campus, if they really got that gene, that OU DNA to do that. So you're going to see a lot of visitors pulling up over the next few days. You'll probably see some commitments over the next 48 hours. Do not be surprised if guys go ahead and commit, because some of them are committing early because they've decided that's where they want to be. And some of the schools have certain guys that are like, yeah, I think I want. But as we said before in the first segment, the transfer portal giveth, the transfer portal taketh away. And there's going to be a lot of dudes entering the portal over the next 2 weeks, especially once the playoffs are done. As these teams finish their seasons, that's when you're going to see more dudes jump in the portal.
You gave me a little bit of a PTSD flashback to when I was 18 in my first semester of college. And that, like that first group of tests and papers and stuff that all comes due at the same time.
Ooh,
oh, man, that gave me a little bit of palpitations.
Yeah.
Trying to remember that. So imagine being 18, also your first collegiate football season, and that first group of tests and papers come together. One more offensive tackle, Ethan Onyanwa from Rice, also expected. Aton Onyanwa expected to visit Oklahoma this weekend as well. So Oklahoma, they're looking heavy at 2 positions: offensive tackle, wide receiver, and also going to be looking at a tight end. That Luke McGarry out of Tulsa. I know people kind of poo-pooed it when they first saw it because it's Tulsa, and Tulsa was boo-boo this year, but everybody's after this kid. Everybody's trying to get him. Literally everybody's trying to get Luke McGarry. So follow the offer sheet, and that gives you an indication as to if a player is pretty good or not. So, hey, we had a few Sooners receive some big-time honors. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And so if you want to go in here and look at FanDuel, you get the FanDuel Sportsbook app, scroll through and look at all the latest lines, all the latest stats, and play-by-play all in the same place where you place your bets. So if you're trying to win that $5, I mean, I'm telling you, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield are 3-point dogs traveling cross-country to play against the Chargers. Think Baker can do it? Personally, I do, but hey, you have the opportunity to check that out. So you can go visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll start off with $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. Try it out with Baker. You can try it with Kyler, who's minus 6.5-point favorites against the Patriots right now. So visit FanDuel.com. Don't waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Danny Stutzman continues to receive all the honors. Walter Camp, first-team All-American selection, and AP second-team All-American selection. And, dude, I am not looking forward to watching a team without Danny Stutzman. If you have one big loss this offseason, it's Danny Stutzman. From a leadership perspective, from a production standpoint, can Oklahoma have really good linebackers come up behind him? Do I think Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis are going to be really good? Yeah, I do. But nobody has been as important to the defensive turnaround as Danny Stutzman.
No, 100% agree. And that man was the heart and soul of this defense for like the last 4 years since he's been here. The day he walked on campus, you felt his aura and his energy. And it's gonna be really weird playing next season without him. And that's the beauty of college football, is that you have these moments where you can enjoy your guy being there, and within about 3 to 5 years, they have to go and move up to the big boy ball. And it saddens you to see him go, but at the same time, you make sure that you enjoy the moments while they're there. He came back for a senior season that he did not have to, just because he wanted to, propel us in the SEC. Unfortunately, things didn't work out very well, but guess what he did? He solidified himself as an easy early draft pick in late day 1 or early day 2, no problem, because he was able to take that production from the Big 12 into the SEC and be just as dominant. I mean, that hit that he put on Jalen Milroe to start the game against Alabama, that set the tone for that game. And after that, you start to see, man, it's funny because I talked to a buddy of mine at that game, and he was like, man, I'm looking at Alabama. I was like, man, they look huge. There are some huge humans. I was like, yeah, I saw Jalen Milroe before in person. I went to a game out in Tuscaloosa because I wanted to see the third Saturday in October, and I went and saw it. And, man, I was like, yeah, he's a giant person. I was like, but don't worry. We got some big boys, too, that's going to, bring some pain. And then Danny got that first hit, and he was like, yep, you were right. And that's all we needed to see. So it feels good to see that players that Brent Venables was able to tutelage up and really help grow into leaders, get those awards. So feels good to see that we're getting All-American honors once again. And I expect more coming up.
Yeah, especially at defense, because listen, you're seeing now that you had good players on the defensive side of the ball. And Nick Bonito, Jalen Redmond, they're having really good seasons at the NFL level. It just never could really translate into great defense or elite defensive play as a team under Alex Grinch. You got good performances, solid production, but it never ascended into that really great status. Oklahoma's not quite there yet either, but you could see the trajectory happening. And for a guy like Danny Stutzman to go from being one of Alex Grinch's commitments, playing that 1 year as a true freshman, and then really stepping his game up every single year for the Sooners and really becoming the leader on the team.
Yes.
Especially after Dylan Gabriel left, like he was the leader for this team, making that transition into the SEC. And he stepped his game up even once again in 2024. So shout out to Danny Stutzman earning those postseason honors. Jaden Jackson was named to the SEC all-freshman team. No surprise. The dude was so good this year. And the sky really is the limit for him. He had he just had a productive year, both as a run stuffer. He did provide a little bit of pressure as a pass rusher. Just getting going, man. As part of a really good defensive tackle rotation, he was productive, man. He had a really, really good year.
Yeah, he was, man. He's racking up the awards. He's racking up the recognition, and that's just beautiful what we've been. When's the last time we were excited about a Oklahoma Sooner at the defensive line getting these type of awards, right? When's the last time we heard about that, guys getting really recognized like that? I mean, we've had them. We've had athletes that gone out there and figured that out on their own, but when you're able to be a nose guard or a defensive tackle on a really good defense, someone that's top 10 in defensive efficiency, one of the top pass rushing defenses in the country, man, or run stoppers. You get all of that from what this defense has done this year, and Jaden Jackson has been a big time anchor in that. He's a force to be reckoned with. And some people will look at the statistics and be like, oh, well, he didn't put up a lot of sacks and numbers. It's okay. Go look at Jalen Carter for Georgia. He was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Go look at his numbers. Not impressive.
Right.
Because it's about the tape. It's all about the tape and the eye test and what you see, the production on the field as far as getting in the way, disruptive, causing issues, getting pressures, getting hurries, being in the way, forcing running backs to cut and change their direction because you're an immovable object. That's what you're looking for. And that's the beauty of it, is that you're getting that with a player like Jaden Jackson. So I'm stoked to see that he's here. I'm glad that him and David Stone are joining each other. Don't worry, Stone's going to get his too.
He's coming.
They play amazingly next to each other, and as Stone get his technique down, because he's more of a rusher and he's more of a guy that's going to actually get to the quarterback. Jaden's job is to fill space and move dudes around, and that's what he's moving furniture. That's what you see out of a Jaden Jackson on the field, and I love seeing him emerge so quickly. That was one guy that we heard about in offseason that did not disappoint at all. He lived up to expectations and even exceeded them, if you want to be honest.
He did. I think I didn't have these expectations that he'd come in and be a day one contributor. Even with all of the spring ball buzz about Jaden Jackson, because there was a bunch, right? Everybody was talking about how quick he was moving, how big he was, how strong he was, all of that. And you never know how that's going to translate. Well, that buzz continued. It did not slow down.
Didn't stop.
Fall camp, he continued to be, noteworthy and buzzworthy. And that's even with adding a guy like Dominic Williams and the emergence of Grayson Halton and having a healthy Dejon Terry. He still was able to carve out a significant role. And that just goes to show the potential that he has is, even with these veterans around, Jaden Jackson earned a starting job out of camp and kept it. I mean, according to Pro Football Focus, he started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games for Oklahoma this year. And honestly was even more productive over the second half of the season as things went along. He had 9 pressures and 1, 4, 5, like all 9 of them came since the Texas game. He had 2 against Alabama. He had 3 against South Carolina. So he's continuing to develop as a pass rusher. But as you mentioned, man, his number one responsibility is to create gravity and draw offensive linemen to him, force them to double team him so that you're opening things up for your guys on the edge and R. Mason Thomas and Ethan Downs and that other defensive tackle. It's no coincidence that Grayson Halton had a big year as well, with the emergence of Jaden Jackson and also the addition of Dominic Williams and Dejon. Like, that nose tackle spot was one of Oklahoma's best spots and deepest spots on the defense. And it just made everybody around them better. It made the linebacker group better because those offensive linemen couldn't get to the second level and attack those linebackers like they have in years past, because you were solid, like literally not like solid as far as the, level of play. No, you were great, but it was just solid and stout because of all those guys. But Jaden Jackson was a big part of that. You asked the question, how long has it been since we were excited about a freshman defensive lineman? Gerald McCoy and probably Tommy Harris, right?
Yeah.
Like, those were maybe the last guys as true freshmen that really, really produced. And I took a lot of heat back in the early spring for mentioning that Jaden Jackson and David Stone could have those kind of impacts. And here we are after Jaden Jackson's first season earning all SEC honors. He's having that kind of an impact.
funny how that happens, John, that we come in here and we tell you all that certain ones you got to keep your eyes on. Look, no one bats 1,000, so every single prediction we provide is not perfect, but we have told y'all to keep your eyes open on certain players, and one of them that we heard the buzz on, like you said, that never went down was Jaden Jackson. We said, hey, man, that dude's going to be something. Like, he was the best pickup in that class. Like, even with David Stone being a 5-star plus, Jaden Jackson was completely underrated. He was the dude that a lot of schools were going after for those particular reasons. They're like, nah, man, we're watching those two on the line together. David Stone is definitely a 5-star caliber guy. Jaden Jackson is a contributor to what David Stone does. And you're like, we'll see. Johnny went out there and he got himself some All-American teams. What could you ask for?
Yeah. And David Stone even said, I'm as good as I am because of Jaden Jackson.
Exactly.
So, yeah, he was right. I was right. I've been wrong. I was wrong about Jackson Arnold, but here we are.
It happens
so far. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Locked On Sooners. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube as well. Follow me at John 9 Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Boomer
Sooner. I got all confused. He.